report, and we have here Pete Fedek and Jim Deal. And just to open it up, there's a lot of interesting things going on financially. I've been researching what I call the banking bubble, which is a much bigger bubble in terms of financial issues than the housing bubble that occurred and the bubbles before that caused major crashes in the economy. The bubble right now, just the big six banks have at least $279 trillion, not billion, trillion dollars in responsibilities, and they don't have the capacity to cover it. Neither does the Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC. So we're seeing a situation where around the world currencies are collapsing. Baltic Dry Index is low. Many of the economies, even based on oil, price of oil is very low, so the derivatives based on oil, like I said, of dominoes, it's extremely probable that in an election year like this year, there will be a major correction to the economy caused by one or more of the too big to fail banks failing. As we spoke about this yesterday with Lowell Ponte and his co-author Craig Smith, who's a billionaire, there is a very high probability of bailing in. There's already another bank, I think, in Austria that's bailing as we speak, starting a few days ago. Just a few weeks, within the last month, there's one bank in Spain, another in Italy, where the same things happened. This all basically means, like, if you don't move into a new economic model, which is based on saving. Now, some people will say get silver, which is kind of good, and gold, which are good. But even better is getting Karatbars. Karatbars is a currency based on gold, and you're able to buy small amounts, like a gram at a time. So you can get involved with the business, plus you can build a downline of people. You help them to start saving in a currency that won't be blown up. Bailing in is a very nasty thing. It's what it means is the people that have these banks, say in Austria, they're going to lose their deposits. It's actually deposited in the bank. They're considered an unsecured creditor to the bank. And that's not good. It means their money goes poof. So what do you think, Jim? Where are we going in this, and how quickly can people get themselves going in, say, 12 weeks to do Karatbars so they can start insuring their money and their future so it doesn't blow up and they find that their currency has lost, say, here in America, 30% of its value, which I expect is a very reasonable probability to happen this year. In other currencies around the world, it'll probably be much more like 70 or 80%, like what happens in places like Argentina.
Well, we've had people come in this thing and just blow it up in 12 weeks. It just really depends on the person.
Right.
And it depends on them putting in place a duplicatable system. And when we have people that are serious and that are coachable and they want to get after it, then we'll show them the system that we use, and they can blow it up pretty fast. We've had people come in. He wasn't in my group, but there's one guy that came in. He put in 600 people in like 8 weeks. Not personally, Whoa. But he put in about 50.
He trained the trainers. He trained the trainers and others. He mentored the mentors, is what I'm saying. So in other words, he didn't personally contact them. He trained people to replicate what he was doing, and they downline did it with their people. And before you know it, because of the power of multiplication, if you just train 2 people a month, and they train 2 people, and they train 2 people, just 2 people a month, all doubling. In no time at all, you can have a giant network of over 1,000 people in 1 year just by replicating each person buying 1 gram of gold per month, and at the bronze level, and sponsoring two people each. That's all you have to do, and that's the minimum. It's amazing. That's the minimum.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So it can happen quick. It's more just an attitude and a mindset and what you want to get out of this. And the people that want to go after it hard can get things done in a real short order. We say you can take the quick path or the long path, whatever you want to do. But it's been done. Several people. We had one gal that blew it up in Canada, and she went from ground zero to like 10,000 people in her group in like 3 months. We had another guy that went from ground zero to similar numbers in about 3 months. So it's not just it's a handful of people, but there are people that have done it and that will do it. So it's, it's kind of like the 4-minute mile. Once it's done, then a lot of other people do it because they know it can be done. It raises that belief level that we've talked about often.
Right.
So, it's been done. So if you're a person out there that's listening that has really knocked it out of the park in other businesses, it can certainly happen here as well.
Yeah.
Yep. And the other thing too, just to add on to the other comment you made, not so much about carrot bars, but you probably heard about the. I haven't had a chance to verify it, but supposedly the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve called an emergency meeting yesterday. Did you hear about that one? Okay.
No, tell me about it.
Well, they were projecting 2.3 GDP, and as the hard numbers came in, they've revised that down to a 0.01 GDP.
You know what?
So,
it's like when there's 95 million unemployed Americans, and they still say the unemployment rate. And this is Obama, the speech with Chris Wallace the other night in Fox. And he sits there with this blank face look on his face, like he's in some kind of a marijuana stupor. And he looks at you like, hey, you got to believe me. I'm telling you the truth. I'm thinking, this man is not capable of the truth except accidentally. And when you have 95 million Americans that aren't, and of course they fiddle the statistics to tell you that, well, if you're no longer seeking work, you're not unemployed. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? When you have 1/3 of the entire population, and we're talking total, whether it's including children, does not have a job at all, nothing, not even part time. When you have 65 million Americans that are on basically below the poverty line, when you have 54 million Americans that are on food stamps, you've got a problem, Houston. And for this fool to say that things are okay when they have an open border, we have potential terrorism, and of course I think he thinks, well, if there is major terrorism, well, I'll just become the pres for life. I'll delay the elections, which are, so far, the elections and the process that's going on is insane. I mean, look at Cruz grabbing all the delegates in Colorado, and I just read a report here, one of his buddies got charged with securities fraud. I mean, this is the craziest election I've ever seen, and if it ever gets between Hillary Clinton and Trump is a scrapper, which is why they see his scrappy side coming out, because of his business experience. Hillary Clinton's going down hard, and of course the rape
not
twins.
To mention the Justice Department hanging over her head with all that other nonsense.
Yeah, but if they try to absolve her, they're going to end up with a number of agents walking, and probably the head of the justice himself, Comey, will probably resign. I can't see him trying to give her an absolution, for all the things she's done.
Well, the beauty of what I see going on, I was talking to Pete about this earlier, is Trump has kind of been a lightning rod and has really brought all the corruption out of the closet. I mean, they've really exposed themselves, and they don't realize what a dangerous position they're in that the few people that have believed in them, they're not believing anymore. A lot of people are just saying, man, this is crazy. And that's a problem, because it's a confidence game. As long as the system has the confidence of the masses, they can get away with all that stuff. Well, they're not getting away with it anymore.
But here's what's doable. And I'm writing a paper on how to fix the economy based on what Trump is saying, plus some additional things from other economists and from some of my own ideas. The first thing that has to happen, number one, is we need to close our borders.
Yeah.
And we need to have a rapid immigration system that doesn't cost a fortune to immigrate here, but we need to have cultural immigration from people that are similar to our culture. We should not be accepting Muslims because it never mixes with our culture, period. Number two, we need to stop thinking it's racist. It isn't racist because people of the same race that are Christians are welcome. Muslims won't mix, okay? And don't tell me because they're moderate. The moderates tolerate the extremes because they're so beaten down by Islam they can't. So look what's going on in Europe, and most of the terrorists, like Anwar al-Awlaki, is an American-born terrorist. So thinking it's just immigration, no, it's much more. If 72% of the mosques are we call radicalized, it's because the moderate ones don't dare to oppose them. They realize that's why in the mosques that the imams actually do oppose them. They get fired. In fact, I saw an interview 2 months ago by an imam who got fired in Houston, and he told me 170 of his imam buddies, because their modern didn't want extremists coming in, they supported Trump, they got fired too, just in Houston.
Yeah.
Back, one of the things that's going on is foreign governments are trying to dump the U.S. dollar at a record rate. And this is, of course, one of the things that's supposed to happen around the 19th, which is, of course, people don't know what these dates mean. The 19th is the date when the Columbine disaster happened, and also when Oklahoma City happened. Happens to be actually a pagan Canaanite and ancient Sumerian Mesopotamian feast day to the god Baal, which they're going to open the Baal Gate and reproduce a digital copy of it in London and in New York City, and then 1,000 cities for the 13 days of Beltane, which ends in the feast of Moloch. These are all really evil times, okay? People don't understand this. So the collapse and dumping of the currency is because when this starts to happen, we may well see a kind of correction that makes 2008 look like a garden party. I think this is part of the why. A lot of times people say, well, why are you talking about all this stuff and telling us how to do carrot bars? Carrot bars is like riding a bike. You put your helmet on, the little 7 or 8 year old kid. You say, here's your new bike. There's some trainer wheels. Don't worry, you won't fall over. We'll take the wheels off after you know that you really don't need them, because once you start pedaling, you're going to stay vertical. But what a lot of people don't is they aren't getting on the bike. They don't realize how close to disaster is, do they?
No.
No. They're delusional. It's like we talk about all kinds of different truths, whether it's health truth. I have, conventional doctors that would dare to try to challenge Dr. Deagle on what the foolishness that's going on in the healthcare system. There's many, many books talking about the medical mafia, but the same thing with the financial. The financial system is so screwed up. Even the derivatives market that they invented to create trillions of dollars of funny money, they can make 2 and 3 times the turnout to investing in corporations or the stock market, that's blown up. They can't make money anymore, even at the derivatives market. It's crazy, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's off the charts. This is uncharted waters that we're in. And
well, I know exactly where it's charted, and I can tell you, I'm putting together a paper on it, and I'll tell you precisely where it's going. In July 10th, 1994, I walked in the underground city at Falcon, Colorado, 3 higher levels of security than NORAD, because I was also the senior doctor for the employees working the Missile Command Defense at NORAD, as well as U.S. Space Command in Westminster and at Falcon, Colorado, Schriever Air Force Base, the most highly secure place on the planet. And I walked through the quantum array of supercomputers made by Cray Computer that were Cray 4 supercomputers in a giant array underground, and the Cray 5, which are the first in history gallium arsenide quantum computers. So each Cray 5 had a computing capacity of 100,000 Cray 4s. And they made a virtual copy of Earth, including right down to GPS coordinates, down to less than 1.5 centimeters of every building, every roadway, and they have an icon called a node for every person in the first and second world, and they're tracking everything from your phone, fax, email. Everything about you is in cyberspace. And they want to move gradually in steps, and this new banking collapse is going to move us very rapidly toward the next step, which is biometric ID. Most people aren't aware of this, but the Obamacare bill, there's several nasty things in it that are pretty scary as hell, but they're in print, is that everybody in America by 2018 is supposed to have a chip implanted in them. Everyone. Did you know that? Did you know that they could not, and I have this from my own guys at Lockheed Martin, because they told me and gave me classified information in 1998, I got it from one of the Lockheed Martin techs that were working in the underground cities, and I have almost 700 pages of this stuff. After he met me in Lodell, Colorado, and I did a talk at a church downtown, it used to be the old church for Catherine Kuhlman, one of the evangelists, for the Prophecy Club. We had an international conference there, and I took over the conference for 90 minutes. And afterward, he wanted to meet me a few days later, and he gave me the actual documents. This is while I was working at these very highly classified facilities. So let me tell you, this is not by chance that this is happening. This is a controlled demolition like the Chargers put in the World Trade Center to demolish it with micronukes and RDX. This is a controlled demolition of the world economy. It is an organized, controlled demolition. It'll probably be in high feast pagan days, like the April 19th or other, that are sacred to these Satanists. Now people say, Dr. Deagle, you're going too far. No, I'm not. I'm only telling you a portion of what I think you can handle, because it's a lot worse than that. And what people need to understand is if you aren't getting yourself into carrot bars, God help you, literally, because your money is going to become worthless.
Well, I want to jump in and say something I think is really important, and it fits here very well, and that is this. For those people that are out there that are just buying conventional silver and gold,
yeah,
not a good idea, and I'll tell you why. Because when things get really crazy, if they get as crazy as we think they can get, you want to have something that's third-party verified. It takes, because people are going to be running scared, and depending on the situation where you're at, if it gets really nuts, and you want to take the fear out of the equation.
Right. Something. Not only that, you want to have something that. One of the things that puts the fear of God into the NSA and these others is they try to lie to you that they can use what's called prime number encryption. And we talked about this extensively with Professor McCanney. Prime number encryption is BS. In fact, he has a whole book on it, talking about how you can actually figure out prime numbers and actually decrypt anything that the NSA says they have. That's why when they see they got the phone from, this couple that did the killings up in San Bernardino, and Apple wouldn't give them the codes. Come on now. I know these guys in Lucent Technologies, Lockheed Martin, Storage Tech, etc. I know them all, and because I'm a mathophile, math to me is like breathing. Okay, I know that all this stuff is very possible, but we have encryption technologies that they can't break. And if push comes to shove, Carrot Bars will allow you to have a currency that can be used internationally that's backed by gold that allow you to buy and sell and exchange and won't have to take the mark. And gold and silver won't do that because you have to exchange it for fractional reserve currency or goods and services by bartering. So you have to understand that, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Carrot Bars is a we talked about it before. It's like gold in a vault. It travels in its own vault, its own security certificate of authenticity. It's verified by a third party. And the actual refineries that put their stamp on this would lose their status if this turned out not to be. There's just so much at stake behind this being confirmed and verified that it is exactly what it says it is. And people don't think it's a big deal, but I'm telling you, more and more stuff has come up where bars have been drilled out and filled up with tungsten. And
yeah, I know that happened in Hong Kong a few years ago.
There's been more. That's more than that. There's been more than that.
Oh, I'm sure. I want to give a new name because I like to use metaphors, and I call it deagleisms, just to make people laugh and kind of. And I want to call Carrot Bars the anti-mark of the beast. How's that? If you have this, guess what? You're not going to get royally screwed by when they collapse the world economies. And everybody, including people like Donald Trump, are in the gruel class. We're not talking about the middle class or the poor. We're talking about abjectly having no discernible money, or your money, if it doesn't go all the way down, will be so devalued that even if you get in a group, you can't afford to buy the gas to get to work. And you look at bread, and where bread was say $3 or $4 a loaf, it'll be like $20. It'll be like Weimar Germany or Hungary during the end of the revolution before they broke away, where you need a wheelbarrow of money in order to buy a loaf of bread. People think it's not going to happen. I can smell the sulfur of the breath of the dragon on our neck, and we don't think it's going to happen. So yeah, we're working on new ways of communication. One of the things we talked about this, Pete, is we talked about primarily in this first half hour why you want to do it. And of course, why is right now, there's multiple stages. The first stage is you get into Carrot Bars to save in gold-backed currency. Not just gold, because it's a little more expensive than buying gold, but you can buy it as little as a gram. The second thing you do is you buy it because you want to have the K exchange, which is coming out, and that's coming out very shortly. We have a new link, for example, for a couple of cool things. This big conference that happened up in Los Angeles on the 9th of April, we have the links to watch the entire live webinar talking about what's coming in terms of the Carrot Bars. And Carrot Bars is the first in the world, we call it sponsoring gold-backed currency, where you can build a downline and get, to infinity credit. So even if you don't do it for 3 months or whatever, or you're sick or something happens, your network still builds for you. It's the first one in the world. There's about half a dozen or so other companies that sell by the gram, but most of them sell above or below the price, but they don't build any network. They don't have all the other features of Carrot Bars. The why is really easy. I mean, the economy is shaky. If you look at the number of countries trying to dump our currency, the treasury notes, who's going to buy them? But the how is so easy. It's like washing dishes, as Dan Geromo used to say. I call him, it's like a St. Paul of Carrot Bars. He's an evangelist. Now he's in heaven praying for us all day and night. Say, I hope they get Carrot Bars because I can see he's kind of looking with one eye closed at the financial disaster just around the corner. It's coming. So when I hear somebody that says, I want to do Carrot Bars, I said, look, make up a list of 5 to 20 people I'll call them. We'll connect and do a conference call. We'll play the sizzle call, 5 minutes. Ask if they're interested. If they are, we'll just proceed. So what I think people should start to understand is that this is so easy. Then they get them on their phone with their credit card company and the fraud and security department to make sure when they buy the Carrot Bars package, send up your customer documents. And there's 2 separate documents. You got to prove that you're a person. I had one question about someone who had a yacht, and he wanted to know what kind of documents. Well, he's going to have a sat phone document. The easiest way is to actually just set up an address at a local postal station, like one of these postal stations where you can have your mail dropped to. If he has a mail drop, say in Santa Monica, that's his address. And once he proves he has an address, he's in like Flint. He's all set. So, any other ideas in that, Pete?
Well, I hate coming back to the drawing board with the same old thing like Vince Lombardi used to do with gentlemen, this is a football.
Right.
But that's what this really consists of doing, which is get started, guys. It's not that hard. You have to get started. You have to make that list. You have to actually work the phones. You have to do some follow-up. It doesn't take that long. If you're at it half an hour to an hour a day, that does tend to act cumulatively in terms of people that are coming on board and people that are starting to duplicate. And that's how you get duplication long term, and leverage is to get started yourself and to get those people started. And I just keep saying over and over, immerse yourself in carrotgroupteam.com,
right,
to learn. There is so much there to learn. There are so many things you can listen to, watch, read, and learn that you can. There's no excuse not to be able to do this business, especially when you get upline that's willing to help you out.
Exactly. Now, the thing is, once you start building a network, just like some of the people were quoted by Jim earlier in the first segments, in 2 months, somebody gets 600 people downline. And they didn't introduce 600 people. They trained the trainers. They mentored people that would then contact their downline weekly and daily and say, hey, I'm here for you if you need help. Let's do some calls. And once they do, usually 1 or 2 people say, I can do this. I don't need your help. And if they just start making a list, and then they're often helping people that have, some people say, well, I don't know many people. I said, well, if you know 5 people, those 5 people know probably collectively 1,000.
Exactly.
So it's like people come up with all these what I call excuses that are easily dismissed. I don't have the time. Well, do you have the time to do a second job if your first job doesn't make enough money? Of course you do. Are you going to get paid enough? No, you're not going to get paid enough because of minimum wages. And, one of the problems that I see what I call progressive plans are going to raise the minimum wage. If they're going to raise the minimum wage, it has to be the government topping up the wage to the employer, not giving it directly to the employee or giving it so somebody can sit in their butt and watch TV. And you can't do a reverse tax, because if you do that, you'll just have people trying to get in the country one way or the other just so they can basically get bennies without doing anything. The country will go bankrupt. You need to have a system where people have enough dispensable income they can put the money back in by buying goods and services, so it cycles back to the economy very quickly. So for every dollar you give to somebody with a lower income, 95% goes back into the economy within a few weeks to months. You give it to somebody rich, and only 5% goes back into the economy because it gets invested in things that are long-term, that are going to grow, and generates very little, we call cycling of that money in the economy, which is why when you ultra-rich get a lot richer, the velocity of money and credit drops like a rock, which is what's happening. You give money to people who don't have any, and they use it. Which is good for the economy. This is just mathematics, isn't it? And the same thing with Carrot Bars. Once people start having money, and they can do things like an eBay account or use K-Exchange to start, they in fact go into their back office and advertise their craft business or their online tutoring or their transcription business for medical or legal transcription. I had one lady last year that asked me, and I said, well, why don't you go online and connect with, to do transcriptions where you're living now in a rural area in Utah? And she said, oh, yeah, I could do that. She moved from Los Angeles where she had lots of business. I said, well, you got all these skill sets. People need to stop making reasons why they can't do something and just do it. And the people that don't necessarily have all kinds of training in business and they just don't have all these, I call mental blocks, they just move forward and say, well, Dr. Deagle said all I need is a list of 5 to 20 people and I'll call them. I don't know anything about this business. And then I start sending information about carrotgroupteam.com, connecting with links, which we're going to post up the links today on our Carrot Bars training site on Nutrimedical on main page. I'll have the links directly on that page right after the show. In fact, I'd like to do a little quick video. I'm going to make a Carrot Bars event on our new premium channel, live stream Deagle Network TV, and I'd like to call you after the show for 5 or 10 minutes and just do kind of a summary of what we talked about today with some actual pictures and some links, so people can kind of get an idea, maybe some of the videos that we talked about, like for example, Mr. Malone and Mike Maloney on his March 3rd, 2016, Silver has not confirmed gold breakout by Mike Maloney. I mean, we can put these up and say you can watch the video on our live stream channel. We can talk about issues. And people can realize, like, we're here for them. They don't need to become an expert. They will absorb this by osmosis if they just we help them for a few weeks. And before you know it, if they do the same thing with their downline, they're going to say, my gosh, I've got hundreds of people that are in my network. I've helped them, and they're making me build a network, which is giving me income every Friday. It goes my Carrot Bars MasterCard in Stuttgart, Germany. And one person asked me, said, where's my card? I said, all you have to do is confirm it. You have to call a number, and probably have that number there to call and confirm your card. Once you do, every Friday, the money for your dual commissions is deposited. You can withdraw that money. You can leave it there in the bank. You can do all kinds of things with it. It's up to you what you want to do. You can buy more gold. So when we come back, maybe we'll pull up that number. The people that are working at Carrot Bars are really nice to deal with. In fact, we often get people in Britain that'll handle a lot of the account issues. They speak English even. Don't have to speak German. For the show today, Pete, we're going to actually do some videos that'll be up on our new Carrot Bars event over on our Deagle Network TV live stream. I've had a live stream premium channel for about 6 years, and now we've moved up to the new format and trained pretty quickly of all the training materials because we've got a premium channel, which is next to the top. It allows us to give videos, and they're all free. You can watch them anywhere in the world, free, on any format, iPhone, iPad, Android, tablets, computers, every type, no matter what your operating system is. And the neat thing about it is it's going to train people up really quickly, even materials that we'll pull out of, for example, Carrot Group Team. I strongly recommend, though, that people who want to get serious, they just get a membership, and it may be as little as $20 or so a month to be in Carrot Group Team, because it shows you lots of training information to help you. And there's also phone numbers you can call in. We have posted up on the Nutrimedical Carrot Bars training site, and of course all these links will be posted up there, including the links to a lot of the videos that Dan Geromo did. I'll be selecting part of those and actually posting them up so people will have the hyperlinks directly to actually look at these videos, which to me is really cool, because you can, even though, rest in peace, he's probably one of the most intelligent people that understood the importance of Carrot Bars in our current economy and why we're heading toward financial catastrophe, which is, by the way, totally engineered. I mean, people say, why did this happen? It's like, why did someone have a health problem? Well, because the doctors didn't properly diagnose the underlying cause of their problem, didn't address it, and they medicated away symptoms, but didn't fix the underlying issue. Whether people are, going to heart failure or going blind or developing diabetic neuropathy or whatever, the problem is the medical system lives on the illness and the lack of progress and healing of the person that's under their care. I mean, as ugly as that sounds, that's the same way as the financial system. It prospers on keeping people poor. So you keep working your tail off, and the powers that be continue printing money and sequestering it to the ultra-wealthy, who continue to actually slow the velocity of money down, so basically your money becomes less and less valuable, which is what's happening. I mean, you see the shrinking size of cereal boxes and the shrinking value of your money, despite the fact that we have so much oil. We have a glut of oil in the world, yet do you see your gasoline prices dropping? I don't think so. Did you? I don't see it.
No.
No. So, as I say, people are starting to catch on, which is why on the Republican side we've got Trump, and on the Democratic side we have Bernie Sanders, although the progressives are what we call stupidly suicidal, because he's basically just a a American version of 100 years ago, a Bolshevik, a communist, which always fails, and it causes a lot of death and destruction when it fails. You have to have an economy in order to do this, in order to actually generate wealth, so that you can actually have enough to give to others besides yourself. So if you want to have as Trump says, he has no intention of cutting Social Security or Medicare benefits, which of course Obama wants to chomp into so he can give benefits to people that come illegally to the country. And I think it's even better, don't chomp into benefits, make your own economy prosper. And if you want to help people, help them in their own country so they don't have to come here panicking to get here because their economy is collapsing in Nicaragua or Guatemala or some other country. Help people where they are, just like, the Russians stabilized the Mideast. So Jan Jeromo's videos will be up. He's got a couple names here. Is Need More Leads is one video by one of the people that's affiliated with him. Then Next News interview with Dan Jeromo. And, of course, that was the Next News interview about a year ago with
Gary Franchi.
And Gary, of course, is a longtime friend. Yeah, he's an amazing patriot, and he's got a lot of good information on his Next News. And, of course, he knew that the economy was heading toward this disaster because you could see the same circumstances around 8 years ago, just around the time of the election. The same circumstances are present now, only the bubble is a lot bigger. And I expect that this year we're going to have the horns of a dilemma of an ISIS or ISIL, whatever you want to call it, terrorist attack sponsored by Obama because he's actually let all these maniacs in here. And number two, the policies that the government has put in place have guaranteed that the big to fail banks will fail. And that's why the foreign countries are dumping our treasury notes like crazy, because they're getting ready for. Now, when that happens, it won't mean that America becomes less powerful. It'll actually become more powerful, because when world economy collapses, 90% of the world currency previously is invested in dollars. So it'll just be a refurbished dollar where they'll wipe out a lot of the debt and take away a lot of people's deposits. I mean, your money's go bye-bye. And now you'll be in a situation where the government's in total control, so any transnational corporation can track taxes anywhere in the world. That's why Obama came out a few weeks ago saying they need to have international laws like from the Panama Papers to control people's money. Don't they connect the dots? And this guy's got this blank look on his face like, we need a better tax law. Look, the NSA knows everything. They know right down to the penny how much money Apple Computer is actually siphoning out of the country and putting it in foreign banks. They right know down to the SWIFT accounts where their money's gone. I mean, to say that they don't know it is like, are you kidding me? I work with these guys at the NSA and these secret agencies. They know everything. They're, what I call cybernetically omniscient. It's funny, isn't it?
Right.
So now in terms of Carrot Bars, again, please call us. If I'm too busy, we'll get other people up line like Pete or Jim, and we'll just walk you through it. And once you do it, you say, my God, this is so simple. I just buy a gram of gold, get a bronze membership, I can bump it up, build a downline. Before you know it, I'm getting gold back currency deposited in my euros in my MasterCard. I can buy more Carrot Bars. If they think that the economy isn't going to hit bust this year and have a major correction, they're not paying attention to the drivers like, Gerald Celente and many others. That all the markers are there. It's like walking into an intensive care unit and you got a bunch of top specialists that deal with life and death every day, and they all look around and they're looking over the top of their glasses at charts and they're saying, boy, I don't know. They're looking at the nurse like, this one's not going to be around here tomorrow morning either. They're going to be off to the morgue or, the undertaker. And that's what's going on. People say, oh, no, it'll be fine. Obama's a good president. No, he's deconstructing America. And any of the other candidates, including Cruz, who's a globalist, his wife, Heidi Cruz, is tied to NAFTA and the CFR. All of these other candidates are not going to do it. Now, if they're in a vice presidential position, for example, I expect Trump to probably make a deal with either Kasich or Marco Rubio, Little Marco, he calls him, so he can make certain he doesn't have to go to a second round vote at the seated convention that happens in Cleveland, which will be, if there's any terrorism on that thing, they've actually the security forces around the president and all these candidates have said they're not going to allow people to take concealed carry. What a great place if you're a terrorist to do something. So I think we're going to have terrorism on American soil before Christmas. We're going to have an economic crash, and we're going to have major problems as a result of these things, with the economy just having what I call a it's like a pulmonary embolus. It just blocks the circulation of cash through the economy, and it'll have catastrophic effects, social effects. You'll see upheavals when people with all their benefits, whether it's food stamps or whatever, don't have anything. People are going to go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go nuts. So if you haven't got out of the big cities, if you don't get in carrot bars, if you don't have an emergency food supply, if you don't have a little greenhouse or even something like a hydroponic thing where you take fish and make vegetables, and it's very simple to get involved and do a home kit. If you're not doing these things, I can't tell you when it's going to hit the fan, but I know that the first major, what I call shock, is going to happen soon, probably as early as this spring or summer. It'll probably be before the election.
Mm-hmm.
And, just watch the signs. Get these newsletters if you want to really know about, watch Gerald Celente, and the guy, he's a real, as they call, New Yorker. And this guy knows he's got a batting average. If he was a baseball player and had a batting average on predicting things, he'd be one of the world history top batters in history. And people look at him like, "No, Gerald, you can't be right. This is too scary." I'm thinking, "No, Gerald, unfortunately, you're a good batter when it comes to the economy. You're probably going to bat this one out of the park, and God help us when it happens." Right?
Right. That's very true.
So I tell you, if you want to know about carrot bars, you don't have to spend anything. Just call us. Call me at 888-212-8871. You drop an email. We'll bump you up if need be to people who know a lot more than I do. Pete Fedek, Jim Deal, Jerry Franchi. You need to know that as this is a Jubilee year, and the other word for it is the wipeout year, and in Hebrew it means the Shemitah. And I believe the Shemitah has hit the fan, if you get the message.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty soon that Shemitah, who's airborne, is going to hit you and any of your body parts exposed, and financially we're all exposed to fractional reserve, funny money, currency, and it's going to be very painful when people realize their deposits are gone. They're going to go nuts. That's why they want your guns. That's why they want Merrick in there as the Supreme Court justice, because when people go nuts, you don't want them to have guns, do you?
Right.
There you go.